Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Evilise. Thank you so much for joining. So today I decided to kind of just do a more drastic look. Obviously this is not a normal everyday look. I wouldn't do this look all the time. I've done it a few times and where it's like church and stuff, but this isn't something I would do just on the daily. So I did this look and I used the Violet Voss Berry Burst palette. I've been really wanting to use this palette in my channel, so I was super excited to go ahead and film this video for you guys. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please let me know if you want anything from me, if you want me to do any looks or any recommendations that you have. Please let me know. I would love to do this for you guys. But yeah, so without any further ado, let's just jump into the tutorial. Okay, so I'm first off going to start with my e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. If you've been watching my videos the last few times, I have been using this stuff like crazy. It literally works so well. So I'm going to mainly just apply this where I have the most pores or where I tend to see them the most. So just like my nose area really, and then bring it down a little bit onto my chin. And my face actually feels really soft. I did a scrub, like a face scrub before I did this. Then I also did a lip scrub, like a lip mask. And highly recommend. That stuff works great. I used the one from Mary Kay, I believe. It's just like a lip scrub. I think it's like the Satin Lips line or something like that. I don't know. It works great. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my concealers, the Revlon Photo Ready Candid concealers in the shade 55 and 65. So I'm just going to take a little bit of these. Once again, these are like all I've been using lately. Now I'm going to take 65 and put just a little bit on the under eye and one drop on the lid, so I don't use as much of that color. Now I'm taking the and now I'm taking this little beauty sponge from Real Techniques. It's like one of the mini ones. I really like using this. But yeah, so I'm just going to take this and just blend in all of the concealer. I feel like even concealer already just makes such a difference. I went ahead and just put that on. Now I'm going to grab the Revlon Photo Ready Cheek Flushing Tint in the shade 004 Posy. This is just my liquid blush. So I'm putting 3 little dots, or I guess they're kind of bigger dots, and they're not really that even. I can tell in the viewfinder they're not really that even. It's fine. It gets blended out. So I'm just going to lightly blend that out, tap it into place in kind of like a circular motion. And I do go a bit heavy. Once again, I'm pretty sure I say this every time I use it. I probably put a little too much on that side, so I'm going to actually put a tiny bit more on this side. But you're probably like, that's crazy. But it's fine. I go crazy with the blush sometimes. Okay, now I'm going in with my cream contour, and this is the NYX Conceal Correct and Contour Palette in the shade 003 Deep. Oh, sorry, just 03 Deep. And so I'm going to be taking, actually I'm just going to be using the lighter color today. I'm not going to be really mixing any of the deep color. I'm just going to be using some of the lighter color. And I'm putting this in and just blending it all out on my skin in like my hollows of my cheeks and stuff, just places where I would usually bronze, on my nose and everything, and then around my forehead, just because I want to give it an overall even glow, or not glow, but like, you know, an even bronze. I don't really want it to look uneven, so I'm just going to put a little bit, and just I'm going to take like the flat side of the brush and just kind of blend what was on my nose. So I feel like just between the concealer and the bronzer and the blush that this already looks so different, and it kind of just deepens up the features of my face, which I really like. But yeah, so just kind of, you can see kind of what I've done thus far. So next I'm actually going to do my brows. I know that's usually not what I do right after I do this, but I'm actually going to do my brows, and they've actually been looking a little funny here lately just because I feel like I need to get them done, but I just can't get them to look perfect here lately. So what I'm going to do is just go and fill my brows in. Then I'm actually going to trace them out with some concealer just to make sure that they look as even as possible. So yes, I'm just going to go ahead and fill them in. And this is the Rimmel London eyebrow pencil in the shade 002 Hazel. It is literally so tiny now. Like, oh my gosh. I went to the store to look for one, and I was at the store the other day and I was like, oh, let me go check to see if I can buy another eyebrow pencil. They actually did not have that exact pencil, and I really didn't want to buy another one if like I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, because last time I did that I wasn't that happy with how the product was. So I just decided to go ahead and just try to look for this one, but they didn't have it, so I just ended up not buying anything at all. But the next time at the store, I'm going to be looking for this because I need to find this again. So I don't know if you can kind of tell, they do look a little funny right now. I still haven't spoolied through them, but they have just been looking a little it's been hard to work with my brows, let me just say that. So now I'm going to be tracing out my brows, and I'm going to be using this kind of flat brush from Be As Small. You can kind of tell it's just kind of flat. It's like a mini brush. I really like it. It works really well. So I'm just going to take that same concealer. This is the shade 55, and I'm just going to lightly put some on the brush, just a little bit. I'm going to put the concealer on the bottom of the brow, like on the brow bone, and just kind of put it where it's going to look even. So I'm going to put it there, and then I'm also going to put it on top just to kind of trace out where I want the shape to kind of be. And they don't look, my brows don't look awful right now, but I really just still want to trace them out because it's really going to define the shape and make them look a lot better. Okay, now once that's blended in, once that's put down, I'm going to blend it all in now. Just using the brush to kind of just make sure the product is evenly distributed. It also kind of highlights your brow bone, so it kind of uses it as like a brow highlight, but also just because it accentuates the shape of the brows even more. I feel like it just makes them look a little tighter and cleaner, which I appreciate. And once again, I don't do this all of the time. I actually rarely do this. But there are just some days that I'm really like, my brows are struggling, I'm just going to trace them out. So I don't know if you can kind of tell the difference between this brow and this brow. So I'm just going to do the other one now. It's actually hard to do at this angle, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, now I'm just gonna grab my spoolie and just lightly spoolie through these one more time, just to make sure that no concealer accidentally got in there or whatever, and just to make sure that they're fully brushed through. And yeah, okay, now I'm actually going to set my face. Now that all of that is said and done, I just wanted to use a concealer before I set my face because I didn't want to put the concealer on top of powder. So yeah, so this is the e.l.f. setting powder. It's just a translucent sheer setting powder, and I'm actually going to put some of this with my beauty sponge underneath my eyes. Between my brows. I know that looks a little funny and you're probably like, what? Like, why would you do that? And you're right, it is kind of funny. But I feel like I really needed it to set the rest of my under eyes and stuff. I just really wanted to use it. I guess this would be like baking, but I'm not really gonna bake with it. I'm just gonna like put it on lightly and then just dust it off very lightly between my brows, because obviously I just spent a lot of time on that, which I usually don't do. But the reason I put some right here is just because I felt like my bronzer went a little too low today. So now I'm just going to set the rest of the face, and I'm also just lightly going to set my eyes to prep it for the eyeshadow. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my eyeshadow, and I am so excited to use this palette. This is the Violet Voss Berry Burst palette. It's very, very pretty. Yeah, I'm going to be using some of these colors. I really am once again going for like a dramatic kind of, I guess more dramatic, just like a hot pink kind of look. Obviously this is the perfect palette for that. So I really, really like these shades. I've only used this palette actually probably like just a few times, but every time I use it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is like such a good palette, and the quality is really, really good. So before I do anything, I'm going to set my eyes. Also, this palette has a mirror, which is really, really nice. It's like perfect for traveling. So I'm going to go in first off with this shade right here, and these don't have names, but it's just the lightest shade in the palette, the lightest matte shade in the palette. And I'm going to use this and just put this all over my eyes, just like I've been doing, just for a base. So I'm actually going to be taking the lid color first. I know I usually go in with the crease color first, like the transition shade, but for this particular look, I really wanted to go in with the lid color first, just because it's so bright and dramatic. So I'm going to go in with this shade right here, which is more of like the hot pink color. And I'm just going to take my finger once again, just because I always apply eyeshadow with my finger on the lid, and just like, you can tell guys how pigmented it is. Actually, sometimes it stains my fingers, but it never has really stained my lids, but I don't know why it usually stains my fingers. So I'm just going to grab my mirror and apply this all over my lid. Obviously I'm going in pretty heavy with this shade because I really, really want this color to be very like poppy, if that's a thing, like poppy, I don't know. I was packing this all over. Okay, now I just built that color up to how I want it, and as you can tell, I just tried wiping my finger off, and that's how it looks. Yeah, it's pretty pigmented, guys. So now I'm going to be going in with this shade right here. This is actually the shade I'm going to be using on my crease. So I'm just going to be taking a little bit of that, and of course I'm taking my Wet n Wild brush that I use for everything. So I'm just going to be taking that one and applying this all over my crease. But I'm going to go very lightly and just kind of use this color to blend the pink shade out, to make it just a little bit softer at the top. And I will warn you that this shade actually requires quite a bit of blending. It requires a little more work than a normal eyeshadow look would, just because you have to use a transition shade, and then you also have to kind of just keep building up the lid shade, because you can lose a little bit of the color whenever you use a transition shade. But I personally just like applying the lid color first when doing a look like this for the most part. Okay, so now I lost a little bit of that lid color, which is totally fine. I'm just going to go back into it and apply a little bit more on my lid. So I got a little bit of pink on my under eye, as you can tell, but that's okay. I'm just going to use my powder brush and just try to take some of that away. And yeah, that came off pretty easily. So I'm just going to build this up one more time. Once again, this is a process. This is definitely a routine you would have to do whenever you have time to spare, or you just want to try something new. I would definitely do something like this. Then this is definitely not a look that you could do pretty quickly. I mean, it is something you could do pretty quickly when you get used to it, but if this is like a look you want to do pretty quickly and it's like one of your first times trying it, you may want to hold off and just do this look whenever you have a little bit more time, just in case blending takes a little more time than usual. So, and I'm actually going to dip into this color that I used originally, the lightest shade in the palette. I'm just going to dip into that a little bit with the same brush and put that right at the top, almost where I put the concealer. I'm putting it above that transition shade, just to blend out that transition shade a little bit as well. So now I have this built up to how I want it. I'm actually going to deepen up the crease now though. And I'm going to be taking this dark shade, this brown shade, and I'm going to be using this to deepen up the crease just a little bit, just to give it more definition once again. So I'm just going to tap off a lot of it because I want to go in super light-handed because I don't want this to get too crazy too fast. So I'd rather build up than have to like blend and try to take away. Just going in lightly in the crease and bringing this about halfway. And this is the e.l.f. contour brush that I'm using to deepen up this crease with. Okay, now I'm going to be taking this same brush that I've been using, but I'm not going to put any more product on it. I'm just going to be using this to blend and blend and blend everything together. And now I'm actually going to dip back into this tan-ish camel shade and use this to blend the darkest shade a little bit more. I didn't go too dark with it, but I just want to make sure it looks as cohesive as possible. Okay, and once again, I'm going to go in and put a little bit more on the lid. I know you're probably thinking, okay, you should have stopped a long time ago. And you're maybe right, but I'm just gonna add a little bit more just because I feel some of it once again got lost. I told you this look is very time consuming. Not super time consuming, but it just takes a little bit more effort than normal. But I love looks like this. I don't do them all of the time, but when I do them, I love them. Okay, and now I'm actually going to be taking this e.l.f. Flawless Concealer Brush. I actually like using this sometimes for my powder. Oh my gosh, you can still see my finger. That's so funny. Okay, I'm going to be taking this brush and dipping it back into my e.l.f. powder. And just using it to take off as much of the eyeshadow that's underneath as possible. There wasn't a lot of it, but I just want to make this look as even as I can. Okay, now we are almost done. I'm just going to take another color on the lid. I know, yeah. So I'm taking this really pretty kind of pinkish shimmer color. It has a very nice shimmer to it. I'm going to be taking this on my finger and applying that all over my lid just to give this a little extra something. I love the matte looks on this. I love the mattes from this palette, like just the way it looks, but the last couple times I've worn it, I've put this shade on it and it has just been amazing. Just use my finger. I feel like this just takes it up another level. Like it's just so pretty, and the creaminess of this formula is so nice. I don't know why I was not using my mirror. Okay, now I am actually going to be applying some eyeshadow on my under eye. I'm going to be using basically the same colors that I used. I'm going to be using this tannish color and then going in with the pink color and then going in with the brown, but I will do them in the order. I will do them in that order, but I'm going to be using different brushes for them just because I don't want some of them to be as dark and I want them to be closer to my lid line. I've actually never used this brush on my under eye, and I'm wondering why I have not, because it works really well actually. And this is just the e.l.f. eyeshadow brush, just like a plain brush, kind of flat yet kind of a little bit thicker, not too thick. So I just used that one, and then now I'm going to be taking the actually I'm going to be keeping that same brush and I'm going to go in with that hot pink that we used. And I'm going to lightly do this. I'm going to not go as deep, or I'm not going to go as low as I did with the other color. I'm going to try to keep this pretty close to my lash line. And I'm going to do the same thing on this eye. Pretty close to the lid line. I can kind of smoke it out a little bit, but I am trying to be pretty careful with this color. But now with the deepest color in the palette, I'm going to be going in with the e.l.f. smudge brush because this is much smaller, as you can tell. It is a little smaller and it is not as long, which it's easier to keep, and it's a little more stiff, so it's easier to kind of keep the colors closer, and so it helps with that. So I'm taking the deepest brown and I'm keeping this as close to the lash line as I can get. I'm basically putting it on my lash line because I want to deepen it up, and I'm going deeper on the outer end rather than bringing it deeper in the inner corner. I'm trying to leave this kind of deeper on the outer end. Okay, now I'm just taking this color, this shade that had the tan and the pink on it, and I'm just kind of rubbing this together just so it does not look as harsh. I actually really like the way this looks today. Cool. And once again, just taking this brush and just trying to clean up any little mishaps that may have happened, and just to make it look as neat as possible. Okay, so now I'm going to be going in with my mascara, but I'm going to be using a primer first. This is the L'Oreal Paris Voluminous Primer. And I'm just going to be using that as the base. One side says primer and the other side says base. So it's like a primer base thing. So I'm just going to be using this on my lashes. I'm going to be doing a couple of coats of this. Try super hard not to make the typical mascara face, you know. And I just made a mess. That's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. Okay, now I'm going in with the Tarte Tarteist mascara. I really like this mascara, so I'm going to be using this. Okay, so now I did a couple of coats of mascara, and now I'm going to go in with my bronzer. And the bronzer I'm going to be using is the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Contouring Palette in the shade Dulce de Leche. And I'm going to be taking the darkest shade and just tapping some of that off because it is a bit harsh. I'm going to be using this just to kind of deepen up the bronze that I already have on my face. I think I've talked about this before, how much kickback this palette has. It still hasn't stopped me from using it, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just my palette that I bought or if it's like all of the formulas of the palettes are like this, because literally it just makes such a mess every time. And this was the BS Small face round brush, if you're wondering. Now for blush, I'm going in with my Pink Nudes palette from Profusion, and I'm going to be using the shade Blossom. I was going to mix Blossom and Fantasia, but I don't know, I think I just want more of a matte look since my eyes are a little much. I'd rather go for more of like a softer blush look. So this is the shade Blossom that I'm going to be using. Now for highlight, I am also going in with that Pink Nudes palette, and I'm using the highlight in the palette that is called Smashing. So I'm just going to be using some of this shade, putting it on the high points of my cheeks, and all over my nose as well. Kind of went a little crazy with the highlight. I feel like every video my makeup just gets like darker and darker and darker. It's fine. Okay, now I'm going to go in with my lipstick, and I am going to be doing kind of a more dramatic lip as well. It's more like a fuchsia type of color. I'm going to be using the lip liner from Wet n Wild Color Icon lip liner in the shade 664C Fab Fuchsia. Just looks like this. So I'm going to be using this to line my lips first. I'm also not good at lining my lips. I should just point that out now, so if you're like cringing while you're watching this, same. Now I'm going to be taking the Wet n Wild Mega Last Liquid Catsuit Matte Lipstick in the shade 926B Berry Recognize. And now I am done. But yeah guys, so here was the finished look. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to my channel. That would mean so much to me if you could do that. I would really appreciate it, so you could join the fam. But yeah, so I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.